Welcome into the Hot Read podcast for Friday, June the 14th. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, on time and reporting for duty, as I always am here on the show. Look at that, 4:01 p.m. I'm pretty sure it was 4 o'clock just a second ago. It just turned, right? We're on time. Is this on time, JT? This
I
kind
think so.
of on time. I think this is on time. We're on time today with another episode of the Hot Read podcast. We are brought to you by BroadwaySportsMedia.com and the 440 Podcast Network, and you can follow me on social media at Easton Freeze. I am joined by also on time producer JT, who you can follow on social media at JT_Ruhnke. JT, doesn't it feel great to start a show when we said we're going to start a show?
This is a huge victory for me because this proves that bullying does in fact work. If we just continue to fill the hot read replies yelling at Easton saying, "Are you on time, Easton?" I mean, this is how reform and this is how change happens. Bullying works, people. In this case, bullying Easton Freeze to be on time. It works.
This
So
is good.
I'm happy to be here.
This is solid. We're good messages for the kids. Wholesome product we got here on the program today. Hey, we're gonna have a lot of fun on today's show. It's a mailbag episode. We asked and you guys delivered. I've got like 40 questions here that were sent in that we're gonna go through today. Some of them Titans related, some of them Nashville media related, some of them parenting related, some of them life related, some of them Nashville related, and then I don't know, maybe some complex geopolitical conflict questions in there, string theory. There's some, we got a lot of secrets of life, that kind of deal. We're going to get into all of it today. We asked and you guys delivered on Twitter and on Reddit. And so we appreciate if you sent in a question over the last 48 hours, it is in this basket. It will be answered. Now, if you have a question, a burning question, and you're sitting there thinking, dadgummit, I missed the window. They were not going to do another mailbag for a year, which may be the case. We may never do one of these again if this goes poorly. It's not too late. You can, in the live comment section of today's video, send in questions that we will get to at the end of the episode. Producer JT will be patrolling the comments for quality, emphasis on quality questions that we will, or whatever he deems to be a quality question that he will flag, and we will get to every single one of them by the end of today's episode, even if we're here until tomorrow. Not actually, but we'll be here for a while to get all of them answered. So going to be a fun one today. If you want to participate in today's live stream with us, we can have you do that over on YouTube. If you go to Broadway Sports Media on YouTube, find the Broadway Sports Media YouTube page, find this live stream, and you can join Wyatt and D Good and Jacob and Derek and Chase and more people than I can count here already in the comments with us today. We appreciate all of you guys being here. We want your reactions to these answers. Maybe you could dispute our answers, and if you have any questions of your own, you can throw them in there. JT, we won't dilly-dally today because we have so much ground to cover. Let's dive right in. And all of these questions will be in random order today, except for this one, because it is Titans news related. We had a small morsel of Titans news come down the pipeline in the last 24 hours. JT, would you mind informing the people as to what kind of move the Tennessee Titans have made?
Yeah, so it was, one of those at the end of this kind of, as I saw Zach Lyons coin the term today, the end of the pajama practice era.
Right. I'm on board with that. We got the underwear Olympics, and then we got the pajama practices.
I mean, are they pajamas though? I guess.
I mean, they're like sweats and t-shirts for a lot of it. I don't know, but we need
when I think of pajamas, I think of like
name. We have 6 weeks to figure out what the name for actual training camp is.
True.
I don't know. We'll workshop that.
We'll workshop that, but I guess people seem to like it. But either way, right at the buzzer of the end of pajama practices, Aaron Wilson reported yesterday that veteran offensive lineman Garon Christian signed by the Titans. You had a little bit of more info on him. He is 27 and has been an NFL journeyman for the last 6 seasons. The Titans will be his 5th team after stops in Washington, Houston, Cleveland, and Kansas City. Most notably, it is his 3rd stint with offensive line coach Bill Callahan, was drafted by him with the Commanders, was with him in Cleveland, and now is with him again in Tennessee. 25 total starts, 1,600 of his snaps have been at left tackle, 125 at right tackle. He has allowed 12 sacks and 83 pressures and has 16 career penalties, including some time on the left and right side of the line last year for Cleveland when their entire offensive line seemed to be just a mismatch and a wreck. So, I mean, Your thoughts on this signing? For me, I think that it brings in an interesting discussion to be had, but not one that should raise a lot of alarms, in my opinion.
I don't think so, but that brings us to our first question in today's mailbag, and it is from Micah Simpkins on Twitter. He asks, should we see this signing as an indictment on the current group, either health or talent-wise? And the answer is no. I said there in my reaction tweet that it is a depth piece. He's a player that is going to be used in a pinch. These are guys that Bill Callahan, like he did last year with Cleveland, he did a good job of having guys lined up ready to go in. I don't know if it's Jaron Christensen and Leroy Watkins.
Watson.
Right? Watson. These are guys that he had come in a pinch and play not good, but serviceable ball. And as the Titans have demonstrated the last couple of years, they've been in similar situations where they're having to rotate guys in, and it's not been ready-made, plug and play, not even close. It's been an abject disaster pretty much every time a guy has come in. And so these are guys that he's just comfortable bringing into his system, having step in a pinch and be depth guys. And that's what I think Jaron Christian is going to be. So there's our one bit of news. Now we'll get into the formal portion of today's question and answer. And I will draw from our mailbag here. Our first question comes from Douglas Marple on Twitter. Douglas says, if this new coaching staff can make NFL contributors or better of the following John Robinson players, Dylan Radins, Caleb Farley, Treylon Burks, especially, but also NPF, Molden, Weaver, Haskins, Phillips, maybe even Chig, but you could argue he's already there. How does that change how you view John Robinson's legacy or talent evaluation ability? Or alternatively, how does this change how you reflect on Mike Vrabel and his staff and their ability, or in this case, inability, to develop and draft talent? A very good question from Douglas, and we thank you for sending it in. I can go first, JT. I think it is fair to wonder if we've talked a lot this spring about how this new coaching staff, they're being brought in to a common theme is let's get the most out of these guys. Let's be floor raisers as coaches. You know, you bring in Denard Wilson and you have like middle of the roster guys, you know, role player type guys talking about how he has seen the floor raising ability of Denard Wilson with Baltimore, with Philadelphia, the way that he has gotten the absolute most out of kind of pedestrian guys on the roster. That's kind of a microcosm of the vibe you've gotten from this entire coaching staff, that they're going to develop the talent that this team does have and get rid of what is simply not, you know, the same deal with Bill Callahan, right? It's like, well, if Bill can't work it out with some of these linemen, then you know it's time to move on, because if he can't get enough juice to make the squeeze worth it out of a Nicholas Petit-Frere, out of a Dylan Radins, the argument is, well, then they're not going to be NFL players, because this is Bill Callahan we're talking about. This is Denard Wilson we're talking about. And so I think the answer is, if they suddenly have a ton of production from these J-Rob era guys, these year 2, 3, 4 guys that you mentioned, it's going to, I mean, I always held Mike Vrabel as, in my mind, as somebody that's a pretty strong teacher. It was a developer of talent when it was there, but was kind of stubborn at times with certain guys. The guy, you know, left me scratching my head about why he wasn't doing more with a certain guy, and ultimately just having to defer to, well, I'm sure he knows better than I do because he's with the guy more often. He's seen him play. But we've had a couple of instances where that's been brought into question. And I think there are a couple of guys on this roster this spring where it's like, if these guys suddenly start contributing, if NPF and Treylon Burks and Dylan Radins are suddenly usable players, that's going to change my perspective of the last regime, JT.
You bring up an interesting point, because, you know, you do have to kind of understand, we have to see it on the field first before you can really make that evaluation. I do still think just because this coaching staff can maybe bring them to be kind of starting caliber or replacement level players, doesn't mean that J-Rob is out of, you know, it's no longer just kind of like the narrative, right? Because then again, right, these guys were first and second round picks. Dylan Radins, a second round pick. Caleb Farley and Treylon Burks, first round picks. You're expecting, when you're drafting those guys, to be the contributors instantly. And that is something that's always going to kind of come along with that regime. I think also with the Mike Vrabel side of that as well, that's something that's always going to be there as well. Now, I will say that if you're looking at both of these regimes from a development standpoint, I think the kind of coaching staff that they've put together now has so much more experience and ability to develop than many of the Mike Vrabel staffs of the last 3 years had personally. I mean, you just look at the kind of caliber of players or coaches that they bring in, guys who have been so many different places over their career, like a Tyke Tolbert, like a Randy Johnson, like a Bo Hardigree, like guys who have seen in kind of molded different types of players and know that not every one player is the same. And I think that's the big disconnect, that when you kind of talk about a Mike Vrabel style of teaching, he teaches like one way, and that comes from a lot of like his perspective as an NFL player and things like that. You're looking at this kind of new regime as someone who has seen a lot of different things work for different players, and it's about kind of playing to those strengths rather than trying to maybe fit a Dylan Radins into a hole that he just simply can't fit into, or fit a Treylon Burks into a hole that he cannot fit into. Some of those guys require different styles of teaching, and so if that does work out, I think that will be the result.
I agree. I have nothing to add to that. So let's just move on, because we have a lot of questions to get to today. This next question comes to us from Valid Mexican on Reddit. Valid Mexican says, how concerning is the Titans inside linebacker room? Is there any realistic trade or signing you'd like to see to improve the position? So we can start with the first half of that question. JT, how concerning is the inside linebacker room to you, just generally speaking right now? Scale of 1 to 10.
I would put it at like a solid 6 or 7. Like, I
think I'm with you. 7 was the number that came to mind for me. Yep.
There is a concern. You know, the Frank Bush, the linebackers coach, can talk up Jack Gibbons as much as he wants, but then he puts on the
that's
pads.
Raising my concern level when we're talking.
Yeah, exactly, right?
The fact that we are.
We can talk about how smart he is, but when we get on a field and we see them, like when we see them in joint practices with Seattle, and all of a sudden JSN is cooking Jack Gibbons because he is just a more athletic and faster player,
right?
Then I'm gonna be like, how much does like intelligence really get you riled up about a player and his ability to play on the inside?
Well, and to be fair, like a player like JSN should be regularly more athletic than your inside linebacker. I'm not saying he has to be like a corner. You know, we're not expecting him to be as good in coverage as the Titans starting corners, but you need to not lose every time and lose badly, like not be so clearly insufficient as an athlete laterally, which that's what, again, to bring back up one of James Foster, our buddy on the show here, James Foster's greatest points last year was that if you're evaluating players on the Titans roster, you must split Jack Gibbons into two players. It is Jack Gibbons on the X-axis and Jack Gibbons on the Y-axis. And on the Y-axis going north and south, Jack Gibbons is he's a solid player, useful player. On the X-axis, running sideline to sideline, man, it's tough. It's never good. It doesn't work. So I'm with you that it is concerning. In terms of realistic trade or signing options, no, not really. I mean, I don't. There's not really anybody that comes to mind for you. Go and you draft Cedric Gray in the 4th round, and that is a move that for me is a sufficient. That is a sufficient way of addressing this issue to the point. If you think this guy can contribute in year 1, and they have indicated he can, although so far in practice it's been kind of iffy because he's not been out there a ton. We'll see. You know, the real test will be in training camp. I think they've done enough to address it for now, because there weren't a ton of options for them. And we've talked, throughout the draft process, throughout free agency, it was always about this Titans team has a lot of holes. They're not going to be able to address all of them. They're going to have to pick and choose a spot or two where they're just like, this year, you're just going to have to work around it because you're not as strong at that position as you want to be. And that's inside linebacker for this group. That's just, I don't think there's any fixing that bullet hole right now.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still time. Like that concern could go down by 2 or 3 spots if we see Cedric Gray kind of take that step, and maybe that's just what it was. This in the pajama practices, Cedric Gray was just getting kind of more of that rookie treatment, and he's staying around for the next week, kind of getting in more of that experience. If we start to see him take a step forward and make some really nice plays in training camp, maybe I'll feel a little bit better. But still, like, the inexperience from Cedric Gray is always going to be a factor there.
Tony's saying he has been saying all year the Titans should trade for Fred Warner.
I would love that.
In terms of just like off the top of my head, fair value, I've heard a T. Higgins similar trade to this thrown around. Like you could just throw Treylon Burks plus Dylan Radins to the Niners for Fred
Maybe
Warner.
throw him like Thomas Rush is a pretty sexy player this
Right.
offseason. I feel
One
like
for
that's fair
one,
value.
perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
Right. Kenneth Murray.
Get that contract off the books there. But when you put together the inexperience of a Cedric Gray, the just the athletic inabilities of a Jack Gibbons, not saying that he isn't athletic, but he has a certain ceiling that as the slot receivers become more athletic and they use them a lot more down the field and taking up space all across the field, that it's just not going to work. And then also Kenneth Murray's kind of lack of vision and the ability to work in coverage. Like, that's a three-headed monster of just inability to do what you need the inside linebacker position to do.
It's a three-headed monster of
exactly. So to look at the free agent market, I just pulled up Spotrac and who is still available. Like, you have those three guys, right? Tell me if any of these guys here on this list would really make sense for you.
Okay.
We can look at, bringing back Titans legend Zach Cunningham is still out there on the market.
What is he, 39 years old now, or is he
29 and a half? So
he's how old?
29 and a half, not even 30. Well, so he's on the right side of 30.
Listen, in NFL years, I've seen that guy move recently in an Eagles uniform. It's a no good. It's no bueno.
Let's talk about another former Eagle, or most recently Eagle, Shaq Leonard. 28.8, 5 years in the league.
There's a reason he's also a former player recently,
exactly.
Formerly AFC South, formerly Philadelphia Eagle.
You can look at some of these older guys like an Anthony Barr, Dylan Cole, Joe Jones.
Hello, Titans legend Dylan Cole. Excuse you.
Titans legend. Sorry.
Yeah.
The point being, there's not a lot of decent options, and so I think that with this new kind of style of defense that Denard Wilson wants to run, anyways. That's kind of what you get this season.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. I'm getting getting a text from my father, who is in London right now. He's seeing the Book of Mormon for the first time, and he's sending me his review of it. Have you seen that musical?
I have.
Yeah, outrageous. I was hesitant to recommend it to my parents. My mother, I would never ever send her to this. But my dad, I figured he'd find it funny. And his review was that he thought it was hilarious and would never recommend it to anybody. Okay, which that tracks. Let's get to our next question here. And have I lost JT? JT, hello? Okay. Just making sure. Yeah, I think you froze on my screen for a minute, but now I see you. Next question comes from Aaron Moss on Twitter. 2 questions for the mailbag, he says. Number 1, what is the ceiling and floor for the Titans in 2024? Very broad question. And number 2, who do you most respect in Titans media, and what have you learned from them? Really enjoy the show as usual. Keep up the good work. Thank you for the kind words there, Aaron. First question, ceiling and floor for the Titans in 2024. We hate these questions on the show, but we'll answer them because you were kind enough to send in the question, I guess. I will say the floor is I'll say the floor is a top 10 pick in next year's draft because Will Levis just stinks or is hurt all year or something along those lines. And I'll say the ceiling is, I am always preaching on this show that if you're in the playoffs, I think everybody has a chance because all you got to do is win 3. You have to be better 3 times in a row, which is possible on any given Sunday. It's the beauty of the NFL. But I'll say a reasonable ceiling is there's a world in which I think you could mess around and win the division title. It's going to take some other teams really underperforming, I think. And whether it's a division winner or as a wild card, you win maybe 1 game in the playoffs, and you are kind of in that same boat as Houston or Green Bay was this past year, where it's like, 1 and done in the playoffs, or 2. Yeah. Both teams only won once in the playoffs, right? Yeah. 1 and done in the playoffs. Fine showing in your second game. Really exciting future. Everybody's really excited about you. You're the it team going into next year. That's what I'd say the ceiling and floor is.
Yeah, I like how Jacob is saying the ceiling is the roof, and that is kind of to your explanation there. If you're in the playoffs, anything can happen, right? But I think I'm with you that the ceiling for this team is kind of a worst to first look that you saw from like the Houston Texans last year, and that would probably result in either a wild card exit or a divisional round tough game, much like you said, the Houston Texans or the Green Bay Packers. That seems very viable as their ceiling this year. For me, I think the floor, I'm going to go even lower than you. I think the floor could I think it could be the first overall pick.
Wow.
I think it can be. I think
2 wins, 3 wins.
It's not out of the realm of possibility in my mind. Not sorry to people
listening.
That's the
take of one JT Ruhnke,
It
Just
is.
for
I
everybody,
mean,
just
if
get that on the
everything
record.
just goes wrong, like we
Right.
still talk about the shortcomings of this defense. Let's say that some people in the natural media find out that they're correct and L'Jarius Sneed has to miss some time. So
Some people, certain
that hits
unnamed
your
individuals.
secondary, some
Yep.
unnamed individuals. Let's say the Tavondre Sweat pick really just blows up in everybody's faces, and we still have a defensive line here in front of us that really has Jeffrey Simmons and Harold Landry, and that's it. Shane, blasphemy. All right. I mean,
Kick him off the pod, Derek said. He's gone. He's out.
and then on the other side, like you said, it takes a lot of development time for this line to really click early in the season. Will Levis just does not look that great, or in fact, he just gets hurt, and we still don't know what we have to look at in a Will Levis quarterback. That's just kind of what the reality of the worst case scenario. But I don't like the floor is there to happen, and would it answer some of our questions about Will Levis and this team? Probably not. And it would make it really frustrating, but I can see the reality where that happens.
Yeah, I agree. Second question here. Who do you respect most in Titans media, and what have you learned from them? Honest answer. There are very few people in the Titans media circle here in Nashville that I don't like or respect. And when I don't like or respect somebody, I've made it relatively clear on this show who that is and for what reason. So pretty much everybody I like and respect. Just like to throw out some names. TD is a dog. Always, any questions I have, he's there to answer. I'll throw out John Glennon's name because when I first was out there at the Titans facility that first year, he was my go-to for like trying to figure out what I was doing, and he was very helpful. Jim Wyatt is the biggest chiller out there. There's nobody that dislikes Jim Wyatt because he's the nicest guy ever. My respect has grown tremendously for one Mr. Paul Kaharski in the past couple of years, just because when you get to know the guy, he's a good guy and he's damn good at what he does. And so I respect like just kind of watching him the way that he's an old school boots on the ground journalist and has those qualities from having doing it for, well, as I tell him, and he doesn't like to hear it, doing this longer than I've been around, longer than JT has been around because he's old. Paul Kaharski's old. Hope he's enjoying his beach vacation somewhere. Those are the ones that come to mind for me. I don't know, JT, did I miss anybody of great import?
I mean, not really. I do have to give a shout out to my two fellow New York Mets fans here on the beat, Teron
Right.
Davenport and Braden Gall.
Sufferers, you three.
Sufferers, yes. It's surprising how many. There is a growing.
Far too many. Three too many.
There's a growing tension of Mets versus Yankees fans in the Titans media.
I know Terry McCormick,
here.
big Yankee guy.
Yeah, he keeps wearing that
Paul
Yankee
Kaharski,
hat.
big Yankee guy.
Maybe there's someone I don't respect, and that's Terry, because he keeps wearing that ugly Yankees hat every time I see him at the facility there, man. It's just it's ugly, man. Take that off, you know.
Roshan thinking that I was about to say there are
kidding.
very people in Titans media that I do respect, which would be an epic just way to burn every bridge here on the podcast. And of course, our favorite person in and around Titans media is everybody that is employed by the Titans PR department. We love you guys.
Yes,
Robbie in particular. We are huge fans of you all. Thank you for all that you do. We're just take this opportunity to kiss a little ass on the show. Okay. Next question here. We got to start flying through these or we're going to be here for 3 hours. Here we go. This is from Louis V. Duffelbag on Twitter. Louis V asks, if JT and Easton are out on Broadway and see a group of players on the team, what are you doing and why? And our options are buying buying a round of shots. That's what I would say when I'd step up to the bar. We'll take a round of shots, a shots around. Second option is the classic across the bar head nod. Just give them one of these right here. And then C is ignore them completely. It entirely depends on who the players are.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
like if it's Will Levis and Josh Wiley and Tyjae Spears at the bar, I am without hesitation going over and sitting down next to the boys. If it's like, I don't know, there's not anybody that I hate on the Titans roster, but just like people I don't have a great, strong, like if it's Nick Folk and his family across the bar, I'm leaving Nick alone. I might give him a head nod acknowledgement. There's nobody currently on there. Like Andre Dillard, I would ignore him completely, but he's not with the Titans anymore. He was not fun to talk to. There aren't any people on the Titans roster right now, at least yet, that I like genuinely dislike.
What would you do in the situation of a huge NFL veteran like DeAndre Hopkins?
I would not. I might walk up to him and just say, hey, if he was alone, if he was with his family, he's somebody that like, I respect his privacy, and he's
Yeah.
more of a private fellow. So I would probably at most look at him from across the bar and acknowledge him, but not bother him. That's a fair question. It would depend on the vibe and like who
I
they're
think it
with.
depends on
And
the vibe, and also as he said, Broadway or some other bar out there. I think it also depends on the situation because much like them, if I'm buying a round of shots, I don't know if I got that Case Azul money, brother. I got that Jose Cuervo like
right,
gold money. If we're doing that,
right.
yeah, sure, I'm
When
down,
6
man.
shots of well
Um,
vodka costs $140, yeah, that's
yeah,
tough.
I'm not there for that, buying $50 shots for everybody.
You're right.
However, I will
This would
say
need to be somewhere
I
out of
will say
town.
I
I'm with
have
you.
been in this situation once, and I feel like this is a good time to finally share this. That
You
there was one time I was in a restaurant and I saw father and son duo, Bill and Brian Callahan,
Oh,
out to
yes.
eat. This was
Because
during
we won't name the restaurant on the program here, but
yes,
we've seen them. We have got sightings of them in this restaurant multiple times. Apparently, this is their
yes.
spot. They're a big
This
fan
is
of this
this is their
place.
spot, and so I've seen him once, and I did the head nod. We he walked in the door. I was sitting down. We exchanged eye contact, and I gave him the head nod, and he went
Mhm.
about his day. So if like you said, I think it's just it's the situation that you find yourself in, and you gotta kind of play it by ear.
All right, let's go back to the mailbox. We got a lot of questions here. And if you're just tuning in with us live, we appreciate you being here. Big mailbag day today. We will take any questions. It's not too late in the comment section over at Broadway Sports Media on YouTube. It's Broadway Sports Media on YouTube. You can submit your questions. We'll get to all of them by the end of today's show, I promise. Our next question comes in from TJ Strickler off of Twitter. He asks, what growing pains, if any, have you seen with the new staff? There's multiple questions here. So let's start with that one. What growing pains, if any, have you seen with the new staff? I have not. We got a couple of questions along these lines in the mailbag here, but I've not seen any yet. Now it's very early, and there were, I think, some like expected growing pains with trying to learn the process of practice, how the day-to-day operation at the Titans facility is going to go. There's a reason why those of us in the media weren't at Titans practices very early this past month of May, essentially, because they spent a lot of that early period. And even, they got to start earlier than other NFL teams because when you have a rookie coach, you get a little bit extra time to implement those procedures and just get into a rhythm, establish some kind of routine. So I guess but that's going to happen for every new coach. There's been a very marginal, just trying to figure out the relationship between the team and the media and how we get to request players and that kind of thing. But that's a very niche media thing. And there haven't really been any massive issues with that. It's largely been a more open atmosphere in terms of information, generally speaking, than it was with the Vrabel regime. And we're appreciative of that. But I don't know, JT, am I missing anything? I think the growing pains that may exist will come once, you have two new first-time play callers doing the play calling in the first preseason games, in the first games of the season, when you have new players in a lot of new roles trying to, gel for the first time. There could be a lot of growing pains in terms of the actual football on the field operation. So far, I've not really seen a lot of that in practice, but it's because we've not seen a lot of practice.
Yeah, and I think I'm right there with you. I think if there was any growing pains in practice, it's those days where the offense just simply doesn't click, like Brian Callahan said last week when they were in the bubble, and he said our offense just did not do well today in practice. Like there are instances of that, and you're going to
But
have
then they come back the next day and look
and
much better. So
exactly.
that's
So
just the
you
ebb and
have
flow of
the
practice.
up and down of those type of things. However, just from a entire organization standpoint, you got to kind of look at the guys that they've brought in. For the most part, are on their third or fourth trip around the block here with different teams, right? These are a bunch of. It's not like they're bringing in this hot new young. Everybody in the building is like up and comers, right? No, there are a lot of respectable coaches and personnel around the building who have been around this rodeo one or two times now. So
you can just say old folks. There's some old folks around.
There are some old folks out there who know what they're doing, and that's
a lot of awesome PC seasoned veterans, been around the block, using the right buzzwords. But what you mean is they're old and they've done this before.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think when you put it like that, I think that you have a better success of everything going smoothly.
Next question from TJ was, are we looking at Dr. Gibby Green Dot season? Maybe. So as of right now, sure seems like maybe. We'll see. That's going to be a bit, yeah. Dr. Gibb, actually, they took away his doctorate. I don't know if you heard. It's no longer, it's just Gibb, I think.
Green Dot Gibb.
Green Dot Gibb. It's either going to be him or it's going to be Cedric Gray, and we'll find that out in August. So That's all we know right now, but exceedingly maybe. And then third question, should we assume that they're going to assign, that they're going to sign another safety, or is the coaching staff high on Molden? I think that they're relatively high on Molden, but as more a rotational player, I think if they had their druthers, they would have another starting safety. That's why they've essentially said out loud since the draft, we are looking to sign another safety. I think Justin Simmons is the favorite to do that. Would not be surprised if in the next couple days or weeks, that's the signing. I think that's pretty cut and dry. JT, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say that, they may, for what it's worth, be super high on Elijah Molden taking that starting spot. But then again, you have to look at like we talked about earlier this week, you look at the track record of Elijah Molden and just know that he has not been able to stay healthy. And we talked about it. There's
and then it's
Shaheem
Mike Carter?
Brown and Shaheem Carter. Like,
all right. Yeah.
What do we got behind it? No, but the more days that Justin Simmons is out there, I think the more this Titans team should continue to give him a look, because I think him in presence in the kind of secondary there to add to a L'Jarius Sneed and a Cheeto Awuzie and guys like that would be a really strong secondary group.
All right. Next question here from the mailbag comes from Mariota's Mustache on Reddit. He asks, how is Brian Callahan handling the label as a head coach? Does he seem to command the team well? Good question. I've been, we've been observing this the past couple of weeks at practice, and I would say he's done about as well as I would have expected him to. It's interesting because he's very much a zigzag play from a team hiring standpoint. We talk about this all the time with GMs and head coaches where, you have a big, boisterous, commanding personality like a Mike Vrabel, for example, in the building. You move on from him. The natural inclination is you go for like the polar opposite. Everybody wants what they can't have, right? And so if you got tired of the big, boisterous, brash guy calling all the shots, you go and you get a guy that's more the thinking type, the scheme guy, the play caller, more offensive than defensive minded, more toned down and happy-go-lucky and personable in that way. Like that's essentially the Brian Callahan thing. And he's done a good job with it. I don't think he's lost any, I say lost. I don't think he's any less respected by his players than Mike Vrabel was. There are certainly some old guys on the team like Harold Landry that probably came into this skeptical and they had the utmost respect for Vrabel. And so they're like, Brian's having to earn that trust, but I don't know. I think he's done a decent job with it, JT. What have you noticed when you were there at practice?
I mean, I think the question is kind of getting at, does he have, we've seen just the very mellow side of Brian Callahan. Is there that fire? And I think that on some of the days last week at practice when the offense wasn't really connecting together, there was that fire. Like he can turn it on when he needs to, but for the most part, he brings that personable side to the coaching kind of aspects of it that I think the Titans had really missed in years past. And so not to say that, he can't turn it on, because firsthand, I've seen him turn it on on this team and try to light a fire under their ass and get them out there, practicing a lot better. So I think it's a nice, it's a nice ebb and flow with his coaching style right now. But once again, once we get into the games, it'll be a lot different. We'll have to see then.
Next question in the mailbag here comes from TN Smoke, and this is a meaty one, but it's a good question. It says, I know the coaches and players are saying all the right things, and the new offensive and defensive schemes look awesome, but how do you feel about Levis taking that leap this year? Feeling good about it, or are we in for a rough year? Also, are we all assuming Willis is going to end up being cut? Any indication who might come in to run the practice squad and be the emergency third guy on game days? He's got a couple more follow-up questions here, but let's start with that. Easy answers, first of all. Willis, I don't think he's here for the long run with the Titans. He will be the third emergency practice squad guy. If he sticks around on the practice squad all year, wouldn't be surprised by that. But if somebody scoops him up, or, the Titans end up cutting him because they have a deficit at another position and they need the room and they don't feel they need a third quarterback, would not surprise me at all. When you've got a reliable backup like Mason Rudolph, a guy that can be trusted, there's no competition. Brian Callahan said last week, there's a competition between Malik Willis. No, it's not. He's lying. That's understandable coach speak, but obviously a lie. It is going to be Mason Rudolph as the 2. Malik Willis will be the 3. And I'm not sure they need an emergency third guy is ultimately my take there, JT. And then as for Will Levis, I don't know, man. Like that's the big question, right? Whether or not this Titans team has a good or bad year is at this point largely predicated on how Will Levis performs. And we weren't saying that at the beginning of this offseason. It was a lot of, well, they're going to have to do a lot to this roster to even get to a point where the success of this team is really mainly on Will Levis's shoulders, because there's so much that even if he was awesome, they can still, he can be awesome, but this line still stinks. There's no one to throw to. The defense has so many holes. They've largely filled those gaps. They've addressed those things to the point where a couple months ago, I remember coming on the show and pretty loudly declaring, we are now at a point where this team's success in 2024 is pretty much on how well Will Levis plays. If you told me how well he does, I could give you a decent guess as to what the Titans' record's going to be. And so as for whether or not I think they're going to take the leap based on practices, it's very TBD for me. I've not seen enough. I know he's working through a lot of stuff. It's a lot of new people he's trying to, create chemistry with. So I'm going to abstain from that question right now.
Yeah, I hate to do that as well, but like we just need to see it with pads and put everything full speed, right? Like we can't sit here while they're still in shorts and say a definitive yes or no. What I can say is that staff and regime has done a really good job of putting everything in place for him to succeed. Like if you told me that he does a really nice job this year and is really successful, I'd be not surprised whatsoever because of the pieces that they brought in. They had to spend a lot of money in free agency in order to get Will Levis, the pieces that he needs to be a viable quarterback in this league. And that's what they did. They went out and spent all that money getting everything he really reliably needs to make this work. And so I think at this point, it's going to be relying on, once we see that in action, can Will Levis execute? And that's something that we just unfortunately can't see until it comes to September. So.
Agreed. Second part of this question from TN Smokes says, how do we feel about Latham on the left side? Is he going to get his ass kicked by the learning curve during the first year, or is he looking good? Guess we won't really have a great idea until the pads come on. The answer to right there, TN Smoke, we won't know. He's done, as we said on the show the past couple episodes, he has done everything in his power to impress us so far, and it's A+ no notes so far, but he's also not put pads on and hit anybody yet. So let's wait to see that, but it's been good so far. Next question comes to us from Neemsy from Reddit. This is another two-parter. A lot of two-parters. You guys were thoughtful with your questions. We appreciate that. This first part we've kind of already gone over. What do you think? What do things look like with the linebackers who looks like they're getting the green dot? We'll skip that one. We kind of already addressed that question. Second question is, how many receivers do you think make the 53-man roster? Who are the final one or two guys that you think will make the cut? Same question for the running backs. Okay, so we've kind of broached this question already, JT. But as for how many they keep, you went back and looked at the past couple Brian Callahan Bengals offenses and the way that they structured their 53-man roster. It was less receivers than you would guess. Like, just because it was a pass-heavy offense, they weren't keeping 8 or 9 guys. It was like 6 or 7 guys every year, yeah?
Yeah, they really, over the past 2 or 3 years, they kept 6 guys on the roster, two outside guys, two, kind of your Z guys, and then 2 slot guys, one guy to back up the other. And if one gets hurt, they would bring in another one, but they were never really keeping that, a huge chest of depth for the wide receiver position. And that may be because they have everything they need in a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd combo, but they do had those specialist guys who all back them up, between like a Trenton Irwin and bringing in Andre Yosevas last year. Like, they have these guys who are going to perform behind them in special gadget type roles.
Well, to that point, let me run this take by you. I've not said this on the show yet because it may make you angry and you may disagree. I think the just top to bottom, the 90-man roster right now, you look at every receiver on the roster. I think what the Titans have in terms of depth is notably better than what the Bengals, I think that there's more guys that you could argue are worthy of keeping on a roster, because with the Bengals, you'd get down to rookie Andre Yosevas, Trenton Irwin.
Okay, but those are all dogs, though,
Right. Who else? Like that. So who was the 7th guy on the Bengals roster the past couple of years where you're like, I can't believe they didn't keep him on the roster?
It was
exactly
Mike Thomas, but it wasn't Michael Thomas, but
the other Mike
Thomas.
Yeah, Mike Thomas. Right.
Yeah, I mean, they did not have it, but like you said, that's what's going to make it so hard for them to kind of keep that mold of like a Cincinnati style offense, and how they kind of kept their depth chart right, because man, everybody on this roster has a legitimate reason or an argument to be on the final 53 man, right? I mean, from top to bottom, you look at the battle of depth guys between Kyle Phillips, Jaquan Jackson, Kearis Jackson as well.
So
All three of those
he
guys.
asked exactly how many you think make it. So obviously the top 5 are easy. It's D-Hop, Ridley, Boyd, Burks, and Jackson, Jaquan. Actually, I'd argue 6. I think the top 6 are locks. I don't see a world in which NWI doesn't make this roster. So I think Hopkins, Ridley, Boyd, Burks, NWI, Jaquan Jackson all make it. And so they like. Do you disagree with that? And if like,
I don't think so. I mean,
I think it's those 6, and then if some 7th man makes it impossible for them to say, we gotta have this guy. Then
talking about
keep
Kyle Phillips, you're talking about Kearis Jackson, you're talking about last year's 7th round rookie Colton Dowell, if he can continue to be a factor on special teams for
future
this
San
team.
Antonio Brahma, Bryce Oliver, right?
Bryce Oliver, I guess, like
Trayshawn Harrison, Mason Kinsey, Sam Schnee, excuse me, the first mention of Sam Schnee on the podcast
this season. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's 6, those 6 guys for sure. And then like,
I think right now
I give Kyle Phillips a puncher's chance. I give Kearis Jackson a puncher's chance. That's kind of it. I think it's those 2.
Say my gut feeling says that they do end up keeping a Kyle Phillips or a Kearis Jackson, and they go 7.
I think so too.
I think the final number right now is how I feel is 7, but like
I don't know which one of them it is.
I don't know either. I couldn't tell you right now, but
I'll tell you this: if Kearis Jackson like carves out a role for himself, like, oh, this guy's our punt returner or this guy's our kick returner, then there's your answer. Like he'll be the guy. But if not, I don't know. And then he said same thing for running backs. Let me shelf that question because I know there's another question in here that's literally just about the running backs. So we will address that. Neemsy from Reddit, but we're going to get to that in a minute. Back to the mailbag here. Our next question comes to us from our final listener, Wildebeest135 on Reddit. Wildebeest says, and Wildebeest knows how to get a question on the show here. Listen to this start. Take notes for future question askers. Great show, Easton. One of the best in Titans media right now. To start your statement with such a strong declaration of fact is a great beginning. His questions are, how do you realistically see this team working out on general metrics, scoring, offense and defense, team volume stats, AFC standing, number of individual Pro Bowl caliber seasons? Well, that's a lot. What would your broad strokes guess be on general metrics of success for the team? Oh boy. All right, let's take it one at a time here. Scoring, offense, and defense.
1 game over 30 points this year. Please.
Is that the bar? Oh, that's a good. I think that's a good bar.
They have not done it in like 50, 35, 40 games.
It is the longest active streak in the NFL by a large margin.
Give us 1 game of 30 or more points, and that's fine with me, man. Like if they go 0-17, God forbid, but they have like 4 games over 30 points, I'll consider it a success. Sure.
Yeah, I think the scoring defense. I'm trying to remember last year. Scoring defense, they were very low because just the team generally stunk. I think they'll be better on both counts this year. And I think a around average scoring defense is attainable because they're not going to have quite the pass rush that you would like. But if they remain healthy on the boundary, if they keep their guys in the secondary clean and their cornerbacks in particular, then they're not going to get the top taken off of them in many games. So that's good. And then scoring offense, man, the range of outcomes. Tell me how good Will Levis is, and then I'll tell you. Because they have the ability to be a top 10 scoring offense. They genuinely do. An advanced offensive scheme, a ton of weapons. They could be a very high-powered offense. But if Will Levis stinks, they won't be. So, there's that. Team volume stats, we'll skip the AFC standings. I mean, we've already said they could win the division, but it's going to take some help from other teams. I don't think they're just going to will themselves to 13 wins and kill everybody else. So, they could be the 4th best team in the AFC based on record because I think they could be the 4th division winner this year. Maybe 3rd if another division cannibalizes itself. But I'd say a reasonable expectation is their 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th in the AFC, right on that that playoff cusp. I don't know, JT, do you disagree there?
I don't really. I think that there is a real possibility that this team once again in a kind of learning curve year makes it to 8 and 9. Like that's kind of the median right now for me.
Okay, and then Pro Bowl caliber seasons. How many guys on this team do you think have a chance to have a Pro Bowl caliber season? So we have obviously like Jeffrey Simmons could be a Pro Bowler. That's not going to surprise
Harold
anybody.
Landry could have another season. DeAndre Hopkins,
Jack Gibbons,
Ridley.
Obviously. No, I'm kidding. Not Jack Gibbons.
Do you want to hear a hot take on this one? I think the
Do you have a hot take on this?
I do. I think the answer for this one.
Can I guess?
there's a lot of players on this team, like a lot of veteran players who could have really nice seasons. So I'm going to say that there's probably going to be like 8 or 9 guys who I could see be in Pro Bowl consideration, but there's one guy who's my hot take who I think really could
I guess who it is?
make it. Yeah, sure.
Okay, is it defense?
It is.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Is it Cheeto?
No, it's Roger.
Okay. Roger McCreary. Okay, so it's one of the.
I think Roger McCreary may.
I think 3 of them could. It's just going to depend
could.
on. Yeah, I think all 3 could be that good. So those are the guys that are potential, and then offensively, like it's D-Hop or Calvin could either, but it's gonna. I think they may cannibalize each other to both not be. Like it might take one of them just really standing out. Peter Skoronski could be if he just has a massive year 2 jump. Lloyd Cushenberry's capable of it. Latham not in his rookie year. Jaquan Jackson, obviously. No, I'm kidding. But the way people talk on the internet, potentially. I mean, Will Levis, if he's awesome, and the way that quarterbacks work, so many quarterbacks opt out. He could be alternate 7.
If Tyler Huntley,
Jones inaugural Pro Bowl nod.
Yeah. If Tyler Huntley gets a Pro Bowl nod, there's no way that Will Levis could not get one this year.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
He could be in the conversation for that.
Yeah, and Spears and Pollard, I don't know. I think they're going to cannibalize each other. I don't think either. It's going to take one getting hurt or one really establishing the starter role, but I don't see that happening. Okay, so there's that from Wildebeest. And then what looks the most different on the practice field in Vrabel's tenure compared to Callahan's tenure so far? And do you think this difference or differences are good things for the Titan?
I have my answer.
Okay, you go ahead while I think then.
My answer is that there's no net game, and therefore things are a lot better.
The quarterbacks are not throwing into a small net. That's the answer? Okay.
That's my answer.
I mean, my reporter answer is that you keep hearing players talking about how when we make a mistake on the field, we go and we fix it then, as opposed to in the past just getting chewed out for it and trying to fix it next time. So that'll be my answer. Is that I think that, and that's a good thing. So yes, I think that's the biggest difference that I have noticed the players talk about. Moving right along here, and boy, do we have a lot of questions left. We're going to be here till we finish them all, folks. This is from Falcon Man 21. Is this your burner from like 3 years ago when you were still a Falcons fan, JT?
I don't know.
Okay. What's the right? This is a lot of questions. We'll answer. How about we answer these rapid fire style? JT, you can answer them, and I'll chime in if I disagree. Okay. First question: what's the right tackle battle look like?
Right tackle is NPFs to lose, but John Ojukwu and Jalen Duncan looked good. Like not there. Like I think that it's still NPF's job, and I think Bill Callahan wants it to be NPF's job. But if he continues to not be on the field, like both those guys, they are later round and undrafted rookies, but I mean, Bill has talked very highly of them. So I would trust him to get something out of them. Okay.
And the follow up to that was who's getting the most reps? Is there a clear front runner? A clear front runner narrative wise sounds like NPF because that's the way Bill's talking about it. But most reps has been John Ojukwu because there's been a lot of guys missing over there. What's the situation at safety? Are we able to say that about Ojukwu? Yes, we are, because Ojukwu said that. I got myself in trouble almost a couple weeks ago on the show. Don't worry about it. What's the situation at safety, JT? Hooker is obviously starting, but who appears to be the second starter?
Molden, if he's healthy, or the guy they sign.
Justin Simmons, future Tennessee Titan. Any signs pointing towards Pollard or Spears being the lead back? I'd guess Pollard with the contract we gave him.
Nope. Randy Johnson has said touches are touches, and touches are going to go to the person who's on the field. So
I will be genuinely surprised if the split is more lopsided than 60-40. Like I think it's going to sit somewhere between 50-50 and 60-40. Any given
gut answer would be 60-40 Pollard, with Tyjae being that.
So I'm the other way around.
Really?
The other way around. But that I think that's just to the point that I think it's, and I'm not sure there is like I think whatever the answer may be, they're not planning it. Does that make sense? Like it's going to be as the season goes, who's most banged up, what's working. They're going to go with what works. Who's the hot hand, all of that. And then end of the roster receivers, how have Jackson, Phillips, and Dowell looked comparatively? One word descriptor of each guy. Jaquan Jackson, how has he looked?
Surprising.
That's the surprise. Yeah, surprisingly good. If I could mush all those into one words. Kyle Phillips.
Good. Like I've more to say on him. Like he looks
practice king.
Like he looks like practice king Kyle Phillips.
Same practice king he's been, right? Exactly. Yes. And then Colton Dowell, the answer is we have not seen him. He's still
non-existent.
So, not out there yet. So we'll see. Good answer. Good questions there from Falcon Man 21. Next year in the mailbag, question comes from Sage Bow on Reddit. Another fantastic opener to the question here. Woo Easton, longtime follower on Twitter. Important, did not specify whether they appreciate or enjoy what I do on Twitter, just that they do follow.
They follow.
So that I could take that any way I'd like. Traylon Burks, what are we really thinking of his role going into 2024? Is he a no-brainer roster guy or actually in a fight for his NFL career? Both. How about both? Can I reject your binary and I say he is a lock roster guy. There was somebody on the radio this morning, JT, who you told me about, who we'll just leave it on the name. It's like, what do they say? That come August, Traylon Burks will not be a Tennessee Titan. That's wrong. That's not true. And if I'm wrong about that, somebody clip this and I'll eat it then. But that's not true. What his role is going to be, I don't know. And is he fighting for his NFL career? Yes, because next year, like they're going to have his 5th-year option come up. Unless this year goes really impressively for him, really well, like surprisingly well, they're not going to pick it up and he's going to play out his 4th final year. And then it's going to be a contract situation for him. But they, as we talked about, JT, they are wanting this year to kind of be his rookie year, essentially, with this coaching staff. Ease him in, play him behind guys. Can he prove by the end of this year that if they need to let, D-Hop walk, or they need to let Tyler Boyd walk, or if they have turnover at the wide receiver position, do they have an answer in-house to step up into that role for 2025? That's the situation he's in. And in that way, he is fighting for his NFL career.
Yeah, I agree with you. But looking at it from the 2024 perspective, I think you're going to, to that point where Traylon Burks is not going to be on this team come August is the most insane thing I've ever heard when you talk about kind of the effort that he's been putting in this offseason, the things that his coach has said about him, being a little bit more of that present leader out there, leading by example kind of guy. That's something that I think Brian Callahan and this coaching staff really respects. I think that you're going to probably get, 3 looks a game for Traylon Burks probably right now. The designed looks, right?
I'd say 3 is a fair number.
That's where you kind of look. And if he can start to build on those where he's hitting 2 of 3 a game, you probably see that increase. If none of them are working, that's where you start to just get really concerned and kind of,
right. If he's going 3 for 50, multiple weeks in a row, that role's going to probably expand a little bit. There's not a ton of room for it to expand, but
like if it's 1 for 16 again, like that's where you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah. Or, 2 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards.
Yep.
And 1 goes right through his hands on a deep route or something. Tight end battle. Hearing lots of good stuff about Wiley, but Chig has had moments of brilliance the last 2 years. And maybe it's rose-colored glasses, but he's a fan favorite. Who's more likely to make the jump this year? The bigger jump, I will say the bigger jump is Josh Wiley. There's first of all, there's more room there. What he did last year was much less than what Chig did. Chig was your number 2 receiver last year by yards and by catches. So not a high bar, but there's that. Josh Wiley had 10 catches for 100 yards or something like that. Maybe even that. I don't know. It was not much. So I'd say he has more room to grow, but we are a Chigakonkwo podcast. I'm not going to so easily just throw away my Chigakonkwo fan gear. I won't, until I see him die out there, I won't quit. So
we're like in Game of Thrones. We're one of those northern kingdoms that are outside the Stark's realm that still believe in our prince and are going to go to battle for him. Yeah. I think Chig is one of the biggest wild cards for this team, right? He doesn't really have, especially in this Brian Callahan style and how it translates from Cincinnati to here. We've talked about how he just does not have a set place in which makes him that wild card, but you kind of see what they want to do with kind of the scheming up yards after the catch. And you look to a guy like Chigakonkwo, who is a yards after the catch king. And I can't fathom a world where Brian Callahan looks at a player like that in Chig and say, we can't just not let this guy have opportunities. So I think I'm with you there. Josh Wiley looks more like the prototypical tight end that they've used in Cincinnati that works. So would I be surprised if he takes a leap as in kind of snap count and, kind of usage in that way? No. But I think if we're coming down to it, the guy who produces more once again this year, I think that Chig is such a valuable weapon for this team. When you have so many prominent guys, having that guy in Chig who may go underlooked in the middle right there and be able to explode for 45 yards on one play, I think he could get a lot of use.
I agree. Back to the mailbag here, and boy, do we have many questions still remaining.
1 hour, baby.
1
hour down.
Hour through. Oh, this is a fun one. This is a straight. I didn't even copy and paste the text. This is a screen grab from Reddit. It says, "Why is JT such a cutie?" And I didn't print it out just to make you feel good because W
Oh,
chimes in and says, "Retweet." Except he never takes off that darn faded button-up shirt.
I didn't wear it today. I saw this one.
Your
I saw
pink
you
and
sent me
blue
this one.
striped button-up shirt you've been wearing since college. It's a high quality fabric because it's taken a lot of abuse. I've seen you in it
Or
a
maybe I
lot.
just take really nice care of it because it's kind of falling
I
apart
doubt
now,
it. I
so,
doubt it. I doubt that's the case.
yeah, thanks, I guess.
Congrats. You got
Thanks.
admirers out there. I
Cool.
don't know who those people are. Who said that you're such a cutie? Trobs. You got a secret
Oh,
admirer in
Trobs.
Trobs on
I
Reddit.
know Trobs.
Do
Thanks,
you? You and Trobs go back?
I
Okay.
do. We go back.
Yeah, this is from GF 2020 on Reddit. Girlfriend 2020? 4 years. Is this your girlfriend from 2020, JT? Is this Trobs? Okay.
I don't know what that was. Okay.
Question: How does Levis look? That's the first whole question. I don't know. JT.
Good.
How does
I guess.
he
Fine.
looks-
My
Yeah, I
answer.
mean, we did literally a whole show on it. We did 30 minutes on this, so
Yeah.
we won't rehash all of it. But he looks not as impressive as you were hoping, but not worse than he was last year. Like, so he's taken a step, but we were hoping he'd take 2 or 3. Does that make sense? I think that's where I'm at.
He's like that one kid in school that takes every step, and he's not like the other kid that would like try to show off and like climb 3-4 steps at a time up the high school stairs. Did you have any of those kids in
You're
your high
right.
school?
Yeah. The dude that's every time, like when you first become tall enough in like 4th or 5th grade to jump up and touch the door frame.
Yes.
Every time you'd walk down the hall, the guy that would double hand slap because he was taller than their kids. He's like, I can touch the door
He's
frame.
not doing that, but he's making progress. So
Okay.
climbing up those
Agreed.
stairs. I would put
Next
like,
question. What areas with D-Hop look like they could be in slight decline? It's kind of the same as last year, man. Like he's not as fast as he was, but the speed was never his game.
as long as he's I was gonna say as long as he has his
healthy,
hands,
nothing.
if he's healthy and he has his hands, he's fine. Like
Right.
that's how I would put
Until he like gets into a Doctor Strange type accident where he loses the function of his giant hands. Are you a Marvel? Did that go over your head?
No, I got you.
Okay, you got the reference. Yeah, that's the situation, and then he'll have to go to learn from monks in the Far East how to regain use of his hands. The third question: What will JC Latham's adjustment period look like? I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, it could be half of the season where it's like really a struggle, and there are flashes of brilliance, and there are flashes of what are you doing out there, or it could be. I mean, with Bill Callahan, if by the end of September, it's like, we found some stability with JC Latham at left tackle. Like this is a week in and week out. There, some weeks are better than others, but no total train wrecks. That wouldn't shock me either. So I'm curious to see how quickly Bill Callahan can get the best out of him.
I mean, I want to see how quickly JC can get the best out of himself because he does that day in and day out. Putting him in a game like that, I feel like is a really interesting way to see how he reacts to that adversity in game, and I think that's where we might get more of an answer, but I have all the confidence in the world that he can put together a pretty solid rookie season.
Well, and the final part of the question here from Girlfriend 2020 is, I'm assuming it's Girlfriend, it'd be GF 2020. How many
Maybe
weeks?
the guy's name is like Garrett and he has a last name F. Like,
well, then he should have spelled it out. How many weeks into the season will he need to not look like a rookie? I don't know. You just want to throw a number on it. By what week are we like, this is the arrival? What week are we coming in on the show on Monday or Sunday night? And we're like, JC Latham is here. He has arrived. I'll say week, without looking at who they're playing. I'll be like week 6.
Ooh,
6.
okay.
I
see, I'm maybe on the more conservative side. I was going to say like 10 or 11. Like maybe it takes him a little bit longer, but once we get to like that back half stretch of the season, we start to see him really come into his own. And that's where you have your guy now going forward. And that should be a really good feeling, despite how good or bad the season might be going.
All right, chat, clip that. Week 6 and week 10 or 11. Those are our guesses. Next question here from Mayo Guzzler. Very simple and to the point here. Would you cut off yours for a Titan Super Bowl? JT, to you.
No.
You want to elaborate on that?
I mean, I'm a Bengals fan,
so you don't care.
Sorry, I'm a Bengals fan, and I report on the Titan. Would I like to see it? Yes, because our numbers would probably do pretty nice.
I'd imagine, yes.
Yeah. I don't think I want.
And hey, we'd have an excuse to go cover a Super Bowl. That's the selfish reason.
So I guess the better question is, would I cut it off to go to a Super Bowl? And I think my answer is still no.
My answer is no as a Titans fan, but that's because I think it is. Listen, if if it takes self-mutilation for me to see a Titan Super Bowl in my lifetime, then this really just is it's a sorry franchise. It's a poverty franchise. It shouldn't take that to get one in the next. I plan on living for another, I don't know, 60 years, 70 years. So you got plenty of time, Titans. Figure it out. Next question here from Mailbag is from Ethan Norfleet on Twitter. He asks 2 questions. 1, what team do you think is the most overrated or overhyped this year by national media folks? Good question. I love this type of question.
That's a really good question.
Thinking through the teams.
Overrated? Like, I think that there's so much dysfunctionality in the Jets organization that no matter how much you want to...
Yeah. That's fair.
I just think that they're doomed to fail once again. And I
have a little bit of a hot one. This will be hot considering some folks' opinion. I think folks are just not all the way over their skis, but like they're leaning. They're about to lose their balance over the front of their skis on the Chicago Bears. It might be the year before the year for them. I'm seeing, I mean, shoot, Nick Wright floated Super Bowl for rookie Caleb Williams taking the Bear. We've seen a lot of that. People like saying they're a surefire playoff team. They're in a division with at least 2 very good and a third frisky team. So I think that might be the team that's, not to say they're going to be bad, but like if you told me they had a 9-8, 10-7 year, just in the playoffs or just out of the playoffs, lose in spectacular fashion if they get in year before the year kind of thing, I wouldn't be surprised at that. I think that'd be a good year. I think that'd be a success for the Bears.
Yeah, I agree.
Second question is, if your life, this is good. If your life depended on it and you had 10 tries, do you think you could complete a pass beyond the line of scrimmage against the Titans' first string defense? So I need more information here. What do I have at my disposal? Do I have the first team offense at my disposal?
Let's say yes.
Then I'll say yes, but there's only not any pass. The answer is not any pass.
You have to, it can't be a screen pass. It has to go forward.
Right, I'm throwing goal line phase up to DeAndre Hopkins and saying, my life's on the line here, buddy. I need you to catch this ball. Make it work. I'll just toss it up and he'll do all the work. Because I can't throw across the middle because I won't be able to see or get my arm over the offensive. Like Jeffrey Simmons is 1,000% slapping that ball out of the air. So it's going to be, I'll just throw a missile straight up in the air in the general direction of DeAndre Hopkins or whoever says you can trust your life with me, and they go catch it and they do all the work and I claim all the glory.
Yeah. So my answer is going to be no. And it's not because of any of that. It's because
I'm scared to compete. You and Rome Odunze thinking you can't land a plane. I bet you think you can't land an airplane too.
Well, here, are you ready for the reason? The reason is that my hands are even smaller than Kenny Pickett's, and I don't think I'll actually.
Are they really? Have you measured them?
Yeah, my hands are smaller than Kenny Pickett's are even, and
what is your hand size?
I don't remember, but I know for a fact that they're smaller than Kenny Pickett. So with that being said, I really doubt my ability to get a good grip on a regulation size football and complete what's even close to a path.
I got a tape measure because I don't know the answer.
Oh, hold on, I got a tape measure too. Hold on.
So it's thumb to pinky, right?
Yeah.
I'm just over 9 1/4. So 9 3/8 for me.
I'm barely 8.
Flat? 8 flat?
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. We got to go to mock draftables to see what percentile you fit into. That's crazy.
I'm probably less than 1% percentile. But yeah, like I genuinely doubt my ability to
throw the ball.
To throw the ball, and that's why
Kenny Pickett's hand is 8.5, and that was first percentile. So you're 0th percentile with your 8. You say just barely 8 or just under 8? You are
just 8.
That's crazy. Okay, so what am I at 9 1/4? Who's got moderately sized hands? Joe Burrow his hand size is 9 inches. Mine's a little bit bigger. That's 8th percentile. So I still have small hands by NFL quarterback standards. Okay, here Jarrett Stidham, 9 1/8, 15th percentile. So actually, I have decent hands. Trey Lance.
I think it says I have smaller hands than Donald Trump. So I guess I don't know whether to be.
He's notoriously small hands, I believe. So that's tough.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I have below average.
I throw baseballs and softballs and anything like that.
Softball's a little big for your hand, isn't it, little guy? That's crazy.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Okay. Next question. I love the great question from Ethan Norfleet. That's the kind of content we're looking for. Next question here is from the General on Twitter. It's just like Shaq's buddy, the General. I don't know.
I hope so.
What do you think Callahan's doghouse is like? Vrabel seems to be a black hole of no return. Sneaky good question. I want to defer to you, JT. What is there a notable guy in recent Cincinnati Bengals history that was really in the doghouse? And everybody's like, I think the coaches are just not crazy about this guy right now.
I mean, the last one I can think of is like Vontez. Perfect.
For
But,
obvious
like,
reasons.
I think
Yeah,
that was
no,
a
I need
little bit
less obvious
before.
reasons than
Let's go
assault.
Eli Apple. Like, I think
Okay.
Eli, but like, I don't know how much, he was involved with that, right? I think you could also look to many of offensive linemen that the Bengals have tried and failed, but I don't know what that doghouse looks like, right? Because it's a hard thing to say, because of, Brian Callahan not calling the plays, maybe execution wise, but then
He
again,
doesn't
I don't
strike me
know.
as the kind of coach that's going to have a really strong doghouse. And if it is, it's going to
Yeah.
be kind of a Kyle Shanahan kind of thing where it's just like a guy doesn't work for my scheme very well. And until he adjusts his play style to the way I want you to play,
Yeah.
no ill will. I'm not going to play him. Like that's kind of what I think it will be like. But I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll keep a tab on that because that's a good question. We really don't have an answer to yet. Next question from the mailbag here from Jason McLean. This was from the last live show. I told Jason, I said, I'm writing this down, and I did. He says, very simple, player to watch on defense. JT, if you have to pick one player that is the most interesting to you this year on defense, and let's make it the starting defense or the projected starting defense. Who is the guy that you find most fascinating? I have my answer.
I think
there are two obvious answers.
Okay. Mine, I'm going to go back to. I'm going to go back to the guy I kind of said is a sneaky Pro Bowl look. I think Roger McCreary playing that slot only position, not having to worry about being that outside guy. I have really liked what I've seen from Roger so far this offseason, in and out on the practice field, and just everything we've heard from him. I think that he has a really big potential to have an amazing third year with the team here, just kind of being surrounded by all that talent. So he'll be my most interesting player to watch as we get into training camp and then also into the early parts of the season.
So for me, there are two obvious guys. Tavondre Sweat's the first one, but I'm not going to make that my actual answer because it's kind of different as a rookie. Like everybody's talking about that. That's an obvious one. But him working out up front is going to be very important. They don't have a lot of depth. They need pass rush help just on the entire front, and he's going to be a part of that. My answer that's not Tavondre Sweat, not a rookie, Kenneth Murray, kind of under the radar. We've not talked about him a lot because we didn't see him a lot during the OTAs and mandatory minicamp. He was pretty early on. I think I was in Orlando and you were hosting the show by yourself when he was signed by the Titans. He was that first wave of guys. It was Pollard and Kenneth Murray and Lloyd Cushenberry. Yeah, those were the first three guys, if my memory serves. And so we talked about it then. That was in, like early March or whatever, end of February. And he's been kind of out of sight, out of mind. But he's been brought in to be a starter. And I don't know if folks are like remembering him in LA. It was bad. It was no good. He kind of stunk. He's a former first round pick, and there's potential there. He's crazy athletic, but they saw something. And whatever that is, I don't know. We've not even gotten a glimpse of the way they're going to use him really, because they've not had him out on the field yet because he's still, working through some things. But once he's out there, I'm really curious to see like, hey, guys, what'd you see in this guy? Because you paid him relatively well. You paid him like a starter. He's going to start. So what's the deal? That's my guy.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting one. It'll be interesting to see how they use him both in the preseason and then once we get into those starter reps in games, how they're kind of deploying him.
All right, we still have some mailbag questions in here, but we promised those of you in the chat that sent in your questions we would get to them, and I don't want to make you wait all the way to the end. So let's take a break from the pre-submitted questions. We're going to get to all of them, but JT, let's kind of rapid fire through these questions that have been in the chat, and if you want to enter some more that we answer at the end of the show, you can do that by joining us over on Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page. Broadway Sports Media on YouTube. Find this live stream and in the comment section, enter any question you want. And if it's in there by the time this show ends and it's good, we will answer it. All right, JT, what do we got so far?
Yeah, well, Wyatt chimed in as well saying, where's the shirt, JT? I already answered it. I'm not wearing the shirt. Derek asks, where did you get that hat, Easton? I thought that was an interesting one.
This is, I've had this hat for a long time. I got it at Fleet Feet, which is a shoe store. The brand is Boko, but I think it's a Fleet Feet designed hat, and I like it a lot. Very breathable. It's got like the mesh on the back, so that's nice. And I've worn it out. JT can attest. I wear it all the time, and it's a solid hat, so I recommend it if they still sell them at Fleet Feet. It's like a couple of years old. So
Chase Duncanson asks, think Will Levis finishes the year as a top 15 quarterback?
I do. I'll say
You do?
yes. If I like, there's I'm not saying he will unequivocally, but I will say if I had to guess that he is considered a top half of the league quarterback by the end of the year, yes.
I'm like right on the cusp, I think. But
Fence sitter extraordinaire, producer
I'm
JT.
sorry, that's all I can do right now here in early June or mid June.
You would
I guess
suck
we are
on
now.
drive time talk radio. This is the antithesis
Listen,
of hot
okay,
take radio.
it's hard for me to say that if he can or not. I think that if all his wide receivers stay healthy, sure.
Wait, hang on. Is
Like,
it hard to say that he can or hard to say that he will? Because I think it's easy to say that he can. I
I
think it's
think
easy to
no,
say that he
if
can.
he will. I think it's
Yeah.
hard to say, mostly because if his receivers stay healthy, I think he has all the potential in the world because you have some really, class receivers right there to help you with that. I think the offense is perfect for that. But then again, we start talking about all these mechanical changes and stuff. Like that stuff has to start clicking when we get to training camp. And if it's still
Yeah.
not clicking
Yeah.
there, then when we start to see that, I have a hard time putting him in the top 15 because of a lot of these other impressive rookies who are in a lot of similar situations where they're building around these rookies who already have some proven wide receivers in the room.
Okay. Anything else from the live audience?
Yeah. Stony asks, have you guys requested Bill Callahan for ASMR videos yet?
No, working through the appropriate channels for that. We will get that request in. Don't worry. I'm sure he'll say yes to that. It sounds right up Bill's alley. Is that it?
Yeah,
from
that's
our
it.
live audience? All right, back to the pre-documented questions here in the mailbag. Our next question comes to us from Kenneth on Twitter, longtime fan of the show. Kenneth, hello. He asks, what is the number one question that Easton and JT want answered by the time the Titans season starts? So in training camp or this summer. Doesn't have to be the roster. It could be play calling, scheme, etc. And then he gives some advice here as a fellow father, more experienced father than I. He says, if you love seeing movies in the theater, go while you still can. Also invest in a mechanical baby swing for naps. It's essential. So I have one of those swings that like moves the baby. I'll tell you what, JT, this baby tech has come a long way since we were children. We were chewing on toys with lead paint and sitting in swings that were held up by tooth floss. These babies are in spaceships now. So that's good.
I bought you
a
baby catapult. So
right, you bought a baby Bjorn like rocker swing that I think is.
It's
I'm
a
going to
catapult.
show the people at home.
I thought it was, it looked like whatever they had on their registry, but then Easton
Here
told
it
me
is.
that you can
This is
launch
the,
the baby out of that thing.
Very nice gift. We asked for it. It rocks the baby, but it's essentially a catapult it's a baby trebuchet. Yeah.
Don't let me around that. My intrusive thoughts will get
thoughts
the best
that I'm
going
to have when I'm alone with I'm not going to, obviously. I'm not a negligent father, but the intrusive thought of if I just pulled this bad boy all the way back, it'd be funny to watch.
Yeah, it would.
I might do it with a baby doll. I would not do it with my actual baby, but yeah, that's what that is. And I was like, very fitting, JT, that you got me a baby launching device.
Yes.
So that's the actual question. Yeah.
I'll start. Okay. I think the one question I want to ask is, I think we want to see I want to see defined roles. The tight end position really looks like. We've talked about, Josh Wiley in Chigakonkwo. I want to see how Chig fits in that offense. Does he still have that tight end one responsibility, or does more of that dirty work that the tight ends are known for doing go to Josh Wiley, and Chig kind of becomes that kind of semi pseudo slot receiver that, in the Travis Kelce more mold, like playing that more positionless ball? Is that how they kind of see him fitting in? I think that's one of the more interesting things we'll have to see in training camp.
Man, that's a good one. I'm not sure I have a better answer than that. The number one question I want answered, kind of a cop out, but again, my mind immediately went back to T'Vondre Sweat, like just the conditioning, the health. That's where I'll go because I don't have like that's the one I have. Again,
the question you want answered is
we've been kind of poo-pooing that as an issue right now, but it's going to be an issue when we get to.
I was going to say I could preface your question a little bit better, as in, can we just see T'Vondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons on the field together once, please?
That's a good. I like that. It's a good starting point. So that's my number one answer, or question that I want answered. Next question from Mailbag comes from OKC Titan, one of the Titans, the Hot Read podcast, the Horsemen of the Hot Read Apocalypse. That's the title we gave it a long time ago. He says, if you could have If you could have a 7-day, all expenses paid trip, where would you go and why? JT?
Iceland.
Why?
Iceland is like one of the prettiest places I've ever seen in my entire life. Between
You've been?
all the no that I've
Oh,
seen.
just in general? Okay.
Yeah, that I really want to go because it looks so much fun. The hiking, the backpacking you can do, the natural saunas that you can take part of, and also just the quaint little towns. Like I am, as you know, I'm more of a winter person than a summer place. Like I could
Sure.
take an all
Sure.
expense paid trip to Fiji or something, but like I like the cold and I want to go somewhere that I can just like kind of relax with
My
a nice
mind
cup of coffee.
immediately went to places like that I really want to go. But I'm changing my parameters because if the point is it's 7 days all expenses paid, I'm now thinking, what's the most expensive vacation that I have ever wanted to go on that I want to, not pay for myself? So like
Dubai,
yeah, I mean, like, yeah, going to the
doing
UAE would be
anything
sick.
in Dubai, like
Right.
just
That would be, yes, that's a good one. My first thing that came to mind for me was I want to go to the South Pole, like go on one of those expedition cruises where you go out there and you like stay. That's very expensive. Just getting there is very expensive, and then staying there is
submarines to
very
the
expensive.
Titanic, maybe like one of those.
Yes. Yes, I want to be on the next. What are those things even called? The
They're doing another one. You saw that,
I
right?
saw this. Another very
Out
wealthy
of
person.
Ohio, my fellow Ohioans are going down there once again
Very
to prove
Ohio on brand for Ohio.
they said double or nothing. We're doubling down that this cannot happen again. Is what they're doing.
That Titanic, that chart. I mean, this is so morbid, but the chart where it was like deaths caused by the Titanic by year, and it was like a massive spike in 1901 or whatever, and then flatlined, and then just a little boop in
Yeah,
2023. We're gonna keep adding little boops because
I guess so.
Ohio idiots from Ohio decide to go back down there. Just leave it alone, guys. Leave it alone. All right,
South
next
Pole,
question.
that would be fun. I didn't even think
Go
about
down there.
that. To the South Pole.
Oh, South Pole. No, I know. Isn't that, see the penguins, do all that stuff. It's expensive, but it's paid
See
for.
the penguins freeze your butt off.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
fun. Yeah,
You're the winter
I'm with you.
guy. You shouldn't care.
I know.
You'd bring
I'm
some
just
shorts and a t-shirt and one pair of sweats, and you'd be all right.
I would.
This is from Monin, another horseman of the Hot Read Apocalypse. He asks, "Ooh, here's a gambling question for you, JT. We did a little bit of prep on this one before the show. Let's strike your gambling minds. I have 5 bonus bets on a sports book of decent value that can be used on futures. If you were in my seat, what are the top 4 Titans futures you like to bet on?" His current picks are over 6.5 wins, AFC South winners, which is a long shot, to make the playoffs, which is also somewhat of a long shot, and over plus 4.5 for week 1. So 4.5 point underdogs on the road in Chicago. You found some funny props when you were researching this, JT. Would you want to tell some folks
So
the different options you have out there for Titans futures?
Yeah, let me preface that with Monin's picks right now. I think 2 of them are pretty good.
Good.
One, over
I hate 2
6.5
and I
wins.
like 2.
Yeah, over 6.5 wins, I think is a fine one.
I approve of. Yep.
And
It's
then
even money.
I think as much as both of us want the best bet gauntlet to start right now, we really want to take the Bears plus 4.5 now and just get the best bet gauntlet rolling right
so
now.
those are good. I
Those
would
are the ones
not bet on
like.
AFC South winner. I would not bet on making the playoffs. I mean,
Yeah.
like I might sprinkle, but I would
Don't-
not use a
here we
bonus
go.
bet on those. No.
Don't bet on shots because those are stupid. Bet on the long shots I found on the
Okay.
sports book instead. So here you
Right.
go, Monin. I found a bunch of them for you. First one. How about some defensive rookie of the year props, right? Devondre Sweat, defensive rookie of the year at plus 7,500.
Okay.
Jarvis Brownlee Jr. at plus 10,000.
Sure.
Cedric Gray and James Williams, the 6th round rookie, 15,000.
Oh,
Those are some interesting ones. If you want
only
to look
one
at
of those is going to start. So that's
Yeah.
that sure is
if you
interesting.
want to look at the offensive side of the ball, offensive
Right.
rookie of the year, JC Latham at plus 30,000.
The first offensive lineman to ever win
Okay,
offensive
could
rookie of the
happen.
year, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Dylan Johnson plus
UDFA
20,000.
running back out of Washington, who's going to be at best the 3rd back on this team.
You could bet on Jaquan Jackson if you can find the prop anywhere, but there is not one currently, I guess.
Cowards.
So,
Vegas is cowards. They know. They're not
um,
giving you a number because they know.
here's some. So those are some long shots that I definitely would bet on instead of your other stupid, crazy long shots. Those are a lot better. But here's some that I think are pretty interesting. And
Actually good? Okay.
let's talk about Calvin Ridley and D Hop's over unders. Calvin Ridley is at 825.5 yards over under for the season, which I think is not a bad bet.
Sure.
You're banking on the Jags just being stupid and they didn't use Calvin Ridley right, and Brian Callahan's now going to use him right. I think that's
a very real
bet.
possibility. Yep.
And then D Hop over under 875.5 yards, which that's more of a bet on, do you think D Hop is going to continue to be the one here and Levis is just going to force feed him, which we've kind of talked about. We could see a reality where DeAndre Hopkins is getting his numbers just absolutely boosted in the first 5 or 6 games of the season as these other receivers try to build that chemistry. So I think those are two interesting ones. And then the final one, which I would bet a future on this, which is Will Levis touchdowns over under 18.5. Personally, I think that's a little low for what this passing offense wants to be now. I think over 18.5 would be a pretty nice one. Jacob says in the comments, JC Latham over under 2.5 touchdown catches.
He's taking the over there. That's
I think so.
Sure. Interesting. Okay. I'll leave it at that because that was a good breakdown. JT, thank you for that. We still have many to get through, so let's keep rolling. Mr. First Down on Twitter asks, with all the changes going on, do you think, in your personal opinion, that this offense is going to be successful? Yes.
Yeah, I'll say yes.
Yes, I do. Yes. How successful, I don't know, but I think it will be. I'm with JT. This will be the year they finally get, for the first time in ages. It's been years.
I think 84 years.
Been 4 years that they get a 30-point game. I think that's the deal there. Next question from Jacob Sane, another horseman of the Hot Read Apocalypse. Hello, Jacob. Have houseflies gotten slower over the years? I don't know. I have a Venus flytrap plant that I keep in the windowsill downstairs in my kitchen. Very cool. It catches flies, so that they must be slow enough for the flytrap. So
I mean, there was one in my room earlier, and I was able to catch it with like the Mr. Miyagi clap with my fingers. So they probably have gotten.
Maybe
slower.
The better question is, are they bigger? Because I think they are bigger than they used to be. There's some big old horseflies that I see.
I don't have horseflies in my house, but
I don't know. Maybe not actually a horsefly. I don't know the definition of a horsefly, but like big flies, not little flies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The follow-up question, weird question. Jacob must be going through it with the flies right now. What is the butterfly? Speaking of flies, what are the butterfly effect of Tannehill starting all last year? Starting with the head coach Titans would have hired and take it as far as you want. We kind of went down this road on the last podcast, and that's where I'm guessing this is coming from. If Tannehill started all of last year, do you think they would have had a better or worse pick than they had?
Worse. I think they win
less games. So what games are they losing? They're not coming back and winning that Dolphins game.
No, they're not winning that one.
And are they also losing the
Falcons? They're winning the Falcons game.
I think so.
I think there's some that they lose that they might win if Ryan Tannehill.
Oh, so you think that it's a worse pick? I see. You think they win more games.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, so I think that they maybe they're maybe picking like 11th or 12th. They win one more game. I don't think it's winning much more. And then I still think Vrabel gets fired because I don't think that the quarterback situation had really any bearing on that.
Yeah, I don't either, but we just wouldn't. But then again, like I said, I don't think Brian Callahan comes to Tennessee.
That's the biggest thing. Yes, is that he doesn't come to Tennessee because he doesn't want to. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's the.
And he also just, he's.
And so I don't know who do they hire? Who do they get to sign up?
I mean, there was a lot of talks about
story.
Bobby Slowick. Who was
the Lions DC?
Oh, maybe. Who's the what is his name? Oh,
what team?
I think they would have. Well, yeah, I don't know. Because I would think that the funny answer would be probably like Dan Quinn to like just change overall.
Would they go from Vrabel to Dan Quinn? I don't know about that. I don't know.
Why would they go? Why would they go from Vrabel to the Lions DC then?
I don't know. They were thinking about it. Aaron Glenn. They were thinking hard and long about it. So
all right. Well, this is a road I don't want to go down anymore because it's gross. Yeah, it's so gross.
Yeah. I hate you for asking that question, Jacob. Okay. Jordan Lowry, another Titans horseman here on Twitter, saying during the joint practices this year, what should be the expectation for Will Levis on his performance against other teams' basic defense during those practices? Good question. I think that I don't think the fact that he's going up against basic defenses is kind of nullified by the fact that they're going to be throwing out, like, it's not going to be cooking up, scheming up guys in big ways against the Seahawks. They're not going to empty the bag. Brian Callahan's not going to do that in joint practices. So it'll be relatively basic as well. So I'd say the expectations are look better than you were in the spring. Because we've established we wanted to see a little bit more from him in this spring period that is now concluded. So take another step. You took one step from what we thought you were last year to this spring. It needs to be at least one more step by August. This next 6 to 8 weeks that you need to have figured out whatever mechanics you're working on and be rolling. That's what I think.
That was going to be my answer. I want to see more cohesive offense, as in I want to see the decision-making of Will Levis take that step that it really needs to, and not still look like he's off the same page with his receivers against both his own defense and when the Seahawks come to town, Seattle's defense as well.
Yeah. Next question from Lawan247 on Reddit says, here's the running back question I alluded to earlier. How have Jabari Small and Dylan Johnson been doing so far, and which one has a better shot to make the 53? I think both have done well in, the limited capacity running backs have in the spring without pads on. Dylan Johnson's still my favorite to make the 53 man as the third running back. I think he's the running back UDFA out of Washington. Talented player. We spoke to him on Tuesday. I think that it's going to be him or Julius Chestnut as the 3, and those two are going to be battling for it. That's not to say that Jabari Small has been bad, but I think that he does not have the inside track that a Dylan Johnson has. Just reading the tea leaves, seeing how they're utilized, their skill sets. So
he doesn't have the profile of what they're looking for in that third guy, right? Like when
Probably
you're looking at Julius Chestnut,
we don't know for sure, but just guessing. Yeah.
Just guessing from what we've seen.
A guy that does something different.
Yes. Man, I want to say that Dylan Johnson is still the favorite, but man, Julius Chestnut really popped off this spring. Like he caught,
but he always does. He always does.
Johnson did. So that'll be an interesting battle.
Okay. Next question here from Jack Humphrey on Twitter. Do you think the Titans are due for a uniform changeup? I don't think so. I think most of the new uniforms that are like the team's main uniform have been bad. I think that we are in a crisis of sports uniforms in major American sports right now with the hyper corporatization, streamlining, just like the way that design has been, everything has been made more simplification maybe is the word I'm looking for. I'm out on a lot. Now I love a lot of the throwbacks. The Titans bring back the Oilers and the creamsicles down in Tampa Bay, and the Kelly Green in Philadelphia, and the Seahawks 90s unis, like the Broncos throwbacks unis. I'm in on those, but I don't think the Titans, if they redid their main one, I think they would just make it worse, because I think most of these design firms stink right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can just take one look at the Houston Texans redesign and be like, why would you want to do that to your own jersey?
You want to move in that direction?
Yeah, no. But with that one, Derek says he wants a new uniform just because everyone else is doing it. I guess that's fair, but
first of all, the Titans' main uniforms are not that old. Delaney Walker and Taylor Lewan and Marcus Mariota were repping those uniforms. It was 2016 or 17, something like that. They're relatively new. And also you just added the Oilers ones. So get over it. You don't need, it's not the NBA. We don't need a City jersey and a City Connect jersey and an alternate away and a second, stop. Wear your uniforms. I should be able to turn on my TV and within 10 seconds, without even looking at the scoreboard, be able to look at the players on the field and know who's playing. Okay. Is that too much to ask? Because in the NBA, can't do that. NHL sometimes can't do that. Soccer, Lord knows, can't do that. The NFL is the last bastion of sanity in Northern American sports with uniforms. So let's keep it that way. But if they want to go back to the color rush, I'm okay with that, because I think the color rush is cool. There's a take. I'll just slide in there.
Wow. Okay.
Give us back the Mustard Cat Jaguars jerseys, you cowards. Gareth K on Twitter asks, is Bill Callahan Titans' best offseason signing? I think yes. I think easy yes. I think he, of all the people, players, coaches, or otherwise, that the Titans have brought in, he is worth his weight in gold, and that he has the ability, the latitude to have more impact on the Titans' year than any other person. And that's really, this is me echoing my Bill Callahan is under immense pressure this year take. I think he's under a lot of pressure because he stands to do the most for this team. So I think yes. I don't think anybody's better than him.
I would agree because I think of how much of a force multiplier he already has been and will continue to be because of his reputation. And so that's
Yep.
what I will say, but without getting into that argument again.
We are flying through these. Next question from Davis Smith on Twitter. Who is winning the number 2 quarterback position right now? Easy peasy. That is one Mr.
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph, but he looks like what's his face from behind because he's got that long flow
Sam
going
Hartman?
on right now. Sam Hartman. Yeah, not Sam Hartman. He's in Washington. This is our Sam Hartman. Kroger.
Sam
brand.
Hartman light.
Right. Yeah. Mailbag question from Shane Franklin on Twitter. Who will lead the team in sacks, and will the Titans force more turnovers this year? How many turnovers did they force last year? Let's see.
7?
2023.
I want to say it was 7 off of what I remember. But the answer to the first question, I think it will be, once again, Harold Landry. I think just because of the player he is, and also if you want to call him a cleanup artist, like if Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons work and are able to just absolutely eat up the interior of that offensive line.
So total takeaways last year was 14. They had 14 total takeaways. They had 8 fumbles and 6 interceptions. Not great.
Yeah, not great. But Harold Landry, I think, could lead the team in sacks once again, just because of what the other guys on the defensive line could do. And yes, I think that they will, with that kind of aggressive style that Denard Wilson wants to play, and the 2 places that he came from before this being Baltimore and Philadelphia, a place where turnovers are very much emphasized in their philosophy. Like, I think it would be a very big disappointment if they did not have more than that.
Yeah, it's a boring answer, but Landry is the only obvious guess for most sacks. It's going to take him getting hurt to not be, because he's the only alpha edge rusher they have. Clean up or not, he's going to be maybe Jeffrey Simmons. Yeah, if Danico Autry was still on the team, I'd say maybe Danico, but they don't really have a guy that's a true pass rusher like that that's going to be on the field as much as Harold Landry is, so it's got to be Landry. Next question here. And we're actually making progress. We're almost done with this. Joseph Lynn on Twitter. Not to say we're not enjoying ourselves. Of course we are. We hope you guys are still with us. This has been the longest episode in a long time. NFL teams are allowed a 3rd helmet style now. Right? He asks, question mark. Yes. The answer is yes. If so, do the Titans have one in the works? Not confirmed. Now, people have been like, bring back the white helmet. I hate the white helmet personally. I get the nostalgia of people, but I think about that white helmet with any of their current uniform. I mean, maybe with the Oilers throwbacks, they'd look okay, but No, the Titans have 2 right now. They have their blue and they have their Oilers Derek one. Derek one. Bring back the white helmet so that you can actually have a stormtrooper look. Now okay. All right. The all white with the white helmet. I could probably get behind that. I don't know. Part of me, here's the problem. You know how modern helmets have become more elongated and they're bigger. They're not like the old ones used to be like very fishbowl-y and have the round ear hole, and they're like, they look retro. That's what when I picture the white helmet, that's what I see. And I see that on dudes and it's like derpy. If you get one of those new cool helmets in that style, then I probably will like it. I don't know. Any thoughts on that, JT? No? Next question. All right, next question. From Ed Helinsky on Twitter. Between college and pro teams in Nashville, which fan base is the most passionate about its team? Oh, I mean, it's Vols
There's
fans.
one answer.
That's the answer. It's Vols fans that live in Nashville. But teams that are in Nashville, it's the Nashville Cats, baby. Obviously, it's I think it's
no.
I think Titans fans are more passionate about the Titans than Preds fans are about the Preds.
Yes, that's fair.
Although when the Preds are really good, I don't know. I'm trying to. So I think baseline Titans fans are more passionate, but at their peak, I think like when the 2017 Preds went to the finals, the city of Nashville got up more than when the Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC, or they went to the AFC Championship game. So I think that's the difference, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I remember the insanity of that run. I don't think anybody's topped that.
Yeah, I think it also was mostly because
but you've heard about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely was a lot of the newness of it, right?
Right, being a first-time thing. Yeah,
being a first-time thing for the Stanley Cup, and also, yeah, I mean, if you put if the Titans were playing a home AFC Championship game now, I think you would see Broadway in that area much of the same as they did in the Stanley Cup final. But also it's so hard to judge, right? Because it's one game versus an entire series where you're getting at minimum 2 to 3 days of that kind of hype, right? So I don't know.
I agree. All right, we have 8
But yeah,
questions left.
it's
JT.
Bulls fans. So
It is Bulls fans.
in
Yeah, the
Sonoma.
light at the end of the tunnel here. From Logan. Rank the following 4 people for babysitting my new child, Little Freeze, aka he says the Ice Cube, which is a decent, cheesy but decent nickname. Zach Lyons, F Words Podcast, at Mike Herndon NFL, at JT_Ruhnke, and at Stoney Keeley. Zach already asked to have his name taken out of the running because he does not babysit anything that's not at least 8 years of age, which is good because he was at the bottom of the list anyways. So Zach dead last easily. Mike easily number 1 because he's the only one that actually has a child out of any of you. So I would trust him to actually know what he is doing. So Mike number 1, most likely to. I'm gonna say Mike, Zach. No, I'm gonna say Mike, Stoney, JT, Zach. I'm giving Stoney the nod over JT.
I'm gonna need
Stoney is older than you and more responsible.
Well, I'm gonna need my baby trebuchet back then, I think.
And
I think I'm gonna need the baby catapult back, unfortunately.
Well, here's the thing. I trust Stoney to be able to use appropriate language around a child for starters. That's number 1. I'm not sure you have the filter needed for being around children.
I can turn it on. Have I said anything ever
on the show? You're right. The show is a decent example. That's a good point.
I've got a great filter. I know when to turn it on.
Here's the bottom line. After Mike on that list, I'm not comfortable with any of the answers. not. So there's your answer. Okay. Next question here. From Asher Bowman via email. I got an email question. How about this from Asher? Hey, Easton, I really enjoyed coming to Boom Baz and catching the live show with y'all. Will you continue that during the 2024 season? Thanks and tighten up. Fair question, Asher. Our contract with Boom Baz ended at the end of the season. That was always the plan. We'd do the regular season. And then we've not talked to him again about 2024. I know they've come under some new management. We love all the guys at Boom Baz, the management, everybody we worked with. So I don't know if that's in the cards. I'm going to guess the answer is probably no with Boom Baz, just because their management style, from what I've heard, they're changing some things and the way that they're allocating money. So no ill will there. We loved our time at Boom Baz, and that just means we are looking for any and all sponsors for the 2024 season. If anybody is a small business owner or knows a small business owner or a big business for that matter, local business, we're looking to do shows and do advertisements and all of that. So, shout us out, throw our name around. From Goody on Twitter. Oh, goodness. Has JT given up on the Mets in the 2024 season?
No. Edwin
Not
Diaz
dead yet.
Edwin
Not
Diaz
dead?
is off the IL today. We're so back, baby.
Okay.
We're so back. We're only 3 out of the wild card spots. So.
That's, honestly, this is good news for us, Goody, because we get to continue to see the light drain from his eyes.
Yeah.
Next question. Who is your favorite member of the Titans press corps? Ooh, favorite. Myself, obviously. Second favorite?
Mine is Nick.
Yeah. I should have mentioned him earlier, too. For me, it's either Nick or Sam, just because, those are our actual bros. They're closer to our age, and they're fun to hang around. I'd actually, not to say I wouldn't want to be friends with any of the people outside of work, but, I would most like to be friends with them outside. And I am friends with them outside of work, so I'll say those two. But again, we like most of those people. And then how nice is it that no matter what, you'll never ask as dumb a question as Jared Stillman? Rude. Very rude, Goody. We're not gonna allow that kind of behavior on this show. How dare you? How dare you say such a mean thing about somebody in this market? Moving on. A question from Derek Henry's. I'm not going to say the rest of this name off of two. You can guess. It's a Reddit user. Just not our brand. I'm sorry. But Derek Henry's blank says, this is going to sound crazy because it's way too early. But what does Ryan Stonehouse need to accomplish in order to achieve GOAT status? That, my friend, would start with us identifying the GOAT punter. Should I know who the greatest punter of all time is?
I mean, is it Pat McAfee?
No.
I don't know.
How many Hall of Fame punters are? Sammy Baugh, versatile quarterback punter, comes up when you Google this. Shane Leckler is the yards per punt leader.
It needs to be, because I feel like in his first
Johnny
two
Hecker?
seasons, Ryan Stonehouse has continuously gotten just kind of disrespected and overshadowed by Tommy Townsend, even though Ryan Stonehouse has been the better punter. As soon as that happens,
So if Stonehouse puts up his rookie year numbers every year for the next 10 years, then he will be a Hall of Fame punter. How about that? I think that's true.
I think he's already the GOAT, but
already Brett Kern erasure that quickly. I mean, hello, Brett Kern. Come on, the Kerner
Dude was setting records in his first year.
Dude, what?
Dude was setting records in his first year.
It's a longevity game. Okay, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We need to see more. I do have never mind. I have a signed. Remember, I got that rookie card because he did a deal. He sold them, and I was like, I'll support. I think it was for charity or something.
Oh,
he sold rookie year record breaking cards, signed Ryan Stonehouse cards. It's the only sports memorabilia that I've ever paid for like that. So I'm a regular. Darren Ravel, basically. Next question. I do not have any Martin Luther King memorabilia. That's where Darren and I differ. Next question from Spyro Hinch on Reddit. Hey, Easton, 2 questions. Number 1, how is Levis's chemistry building with his receivers? A good question, a hard question to quantify. I'll answer by saying this. We talked to Tyler Boyd a couple of days ago now about just developing chemistry with a new quarterback. And his point was, recurring point was that it just takes time. Like this, you can't manufacture it without just reps. You can't fast track it. It's only through hard work and time and repetition that you get a rapport with a quarterback. So his chemistry with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins is going to be higher than it is with a guy like Kevin Ridley or Tyler Boyd or, really any of these guys. Like those two have the most chemistry. It's pretty obvious to me. And part of that is because DeAndre Hopkins makes it relatively easy on a quarterback to I think he's a pretty quarterback friendly type of guy. So I'll say it's coming along, but I've not noticed anybody besides D-Hop where it's like, ooh, they have a real connection, those two. Maybe Josh Wiley a little bit, like you alluded to earlier, but nobody else really super stands out to me that way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yet. And then what's going on with D-Hop? I've seen conflicting reports regarding his availability, persona, etc. What's your take on it? Personally, I think people are making something out of nothing. You are on the right track. It is something out of nothing. He's a very good guy. I get the vibe he doesn't love talking to us in the media, but that's if I was a veteran in the NFL as long as he's been, I would understand that entirely, really, if I have to be honest with myself. But he does talk to us, and he's honest with his answers. He's fair with us, and he seems to be well liked by his teammates, and he's not holding out, as some alluded to somewhat recently. So, good guy. I like DeAndre Hopkins. Again, I would give him a head nod from across the bar. I wouldn't go buy him drinks, but I think that's just his vibe. He's more a reclusive guy, which is perfectly fine. Next question here from a potpourri of questions. I'm saving this for the last because it's Stony questions, and there's 7 of them. So we're gonna put that back. We got 2 other questions to get to before we get to that one.
Oh, okay, cool.
This is from Tom Collins on Twitter. Hello, Tom. He says, "What do Titans do if Levis is okay, but looks like he'll be the 4th best quarterback in the division? No team has sustained playoff success without having the best QB in the division. They could be stuck in perennial 8-9, 9-8 seasons with no hope of being able to draft elite quarterback play." A fair question, a tricky question, because if just based on this one year, he is the worst quarterback in the division, I think there's still latitude for that to be not a bad, you could have 4, Anthony Richardson could be a breakout candidate this year. A lot of people think that he's going to be. If CJ Stroud is better than Will Levis this year, is anybody going to be like, oh, failure for Levis? No, CJ Stroud's he's the dude. We've seen this. He's the dude. And then it would take a pretty big year, I think, from Trevor Lawrence to really be like, oh, Trevor Lawrence is clearly better than Will Levis. I think it's going to take Levis not developing and Trevor developing. So I don't know. I think right now he's the 4th, and I think he could finish as the 4th, but it's tricky. If it's over the next couple of years, he's clearly the 4th best quarterback in your division. You're right, Tom, that you're stuck. You got to figure something out. You can't live like that if you're trying to succeed in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think that just continues with, it is tough with him being a 2nd-round quarterback, right? Like that. The clock is ticking. And so that's why this is such a make or break year. And I feel like whatever happens this year, they're going to have to make a decision one way or the other, right? Even if it maybe doesn't make sense after this next year or the year after that, if he's just playing fine, but you realize this guy doesn't have that 5th-year option, right? It's going to come fast if he does not really put it all together sooner rather than later. So like you said, tricky question. But like Brian Callahan has said, he's seen the flashes. He knows it's in there. So I think that they would more likely than not kind of stick with him because he is their guy and they talk about his work ethic and the ways that he continues to get better and see those coachable aspects in his practice. And I think that's something coaches really like out of their young quarterback. So, if I had to say, I would say they probably stick with him through the thick and thin of it all. So I think that's where I stand on it.
Frosty Battle 6479 on Reddit asks, Easton, all caps, huge fan of the Hot Read podcast. How about that? Keep up the great work. Thank you, Frosty Battle. Appreciate you for being such a fan of the show. What's going on with T'Vondre Sweat? What is your opinion on that situation? I guess is what he means. I think he's got a hammy. He's got a soft tissue. We'll see. We'll see in August. I think that is precautionary. Again, I think if they played a game this weekend, he'd have been out there and have been fine. But it's precautionary thing. So I'm not worried about that yet. Let's see him in August. Next question: do you see a hypothetical scenario happening where T. Higgins comes to Tennessee next year when this franchise tag is gone? So if next year, I think that's possible. It would be in a replacement kind of role. So Tyler Boyd, they let him walk. DeAndre Hopkins, they let him walk. T. Higgins is a big ticket item, and you're paying a lot of money to. I think Trevor Lawrence may have just gotten signed. So
Ricky, baby, Pretty Ricky was right once again.
The Jaguars have reached a deal with Trevor Lawrence. Do we have a number?
Yeah, 5-year extension worth $275 million, $55 a year, 200 guaranteed.
Not shocking. Well, that's the number he was going to get.
200 guaranteed and 142 fully.
Matches Joe Burrow's average per year for top of the quarterback market. So, good deal for them. Pretty Ricky nails it again. Anyways, back to this question. I could see T. Higgins coming in next year for the Titans. It would just, it would, I don't know. You'd be paying a lot of money to two guys because T. Higgins is not going to come cheap, and you'd be paying Calvin Ridley a significant chunk of change. So, it would take some, it would take some cap maneuvering for them to do it. I'm not saying it would be an unlikely thing, but I could see it happening. JT, do you disagree?
I see definitely the connection, right, between Brian Callahan and him just being from around the area. Like, it makes a lot of sense for him. But like you said, it'll be really interesting how he does this year, because if he puts up a year much like last year, where it was full of injury and low production and not what you really want from T. Higgins, it's hard for me to see him it's hard for me to process him wanting that type of Brandon Ayuk, that kind of Nico Collins type deal, if he just isn't continuing to produce. Like, it's nice to have T. Higgins because you know what he can be, but it's an industry of what have you done for me recently, right? And if he's 2 years removed from a really solid season, I have trouble maybe trying to pay him all that money to come and be year one.
Yeah. Final question here from Frosty Battle. How do the other draft picks outside of Latham, Gray, and Jackson look? Here, I'll do you one even better. I'll go every single rookie, drafted or undrafted or otherwise, on this roster, give you just the spring update on them. Okay. Bryce Oliver, bad. Sam Schnee, Jaquan Jackson, surprisingly good. JC Latham could not have been better. Amazing. Brian Dooley is a left tackle guy. No. Cole Spencer. I've noticed him like once or twice, but uphill battle to make the roster. Xavier Godwin, the Titans, I believe, waived him today. He's injured. I don't think he's on the team anymore. He's also a lineman. Tight end David Martin Robinson, not noticed him. Tight end Steven Stilianos, again, not really noticed him. We'll see in August. Running back Dylan Johnson, impressed. Jabari Small, less impressed, but still impressed. Defensive end Isaiah Aiton, undrafted free agent at the DN position. And I've been impressed with him. He has caught my eye a number of times, so he's somebody to keep your eye on. T'Vondre Sweat, not been out there. Khalid Duke, an outside edge rusher, not noticed him. Cedric Gray, been underwhelmed with how much he's been out there, right? James Williams, meh, 6th round, 7th round guy, kind of what you expect in spring. Jalen Harrell, same boat, Gabe Jeudy-Lally, obviously wildly impressive based on what we were expecting for him. The cornerback out of Tennessee, absolutely had a fantastic spring for himself. He's in that JC Latham tier of most impressive so far. Keaton Ellis, free safety, not noticed him. Robert Xavier or Javier is a cornerback, not noticed him. Travis Brownlee, didn't really notice him much until the end and then started to notice him, so that's a good thing. And then Braden Narvison, place kicker. Is he the guy that kicked one into the lake?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so there's that. And then, that's it. That's all of them. So there's your answer. There's your one-word summary on every single guy so far, based on what I've seen. Now to Stoney's questions, and we get out of here, JT. Who is the second sweatiest member of the media? Second sweatiest. Goodness.
I think Stoney thinks he's the sweatiest.
Oh,
so,
is that the giveaway
that's
here?
why
I
it's
don't
the
know. I'm a
second.
pretty naturally sweaty. Like I'm not sweating around sitting in my house, but like I'll break a sweat. I'll get a good sweat going if I'm working out. So I'm a naturally sweaty person. I don't think it's a bad thing to be. Now, if you're like just sweating, just sitting around, that's one thing. But if you're getting active or it's hot outside and you sweat some, then there's no shame in that. Your body's just regulating its temperature. So I don't know. Maybe me. Probably not, but maybe. I don't know. The bias breaks a sweat out there like I do. Nick Suss. I've seen him break a sweat once or twice. I know Sam. I think Sam Phelan can break a good sweat because he's an athletic guy, but he'll get a sweat going. I don't know. Maybe Braden sweats a little bit. I don't know. I've not seen Braden's out there sweating like I am. I don't know. On really hot days, you'll be out there in August, JT, and I'm at home with the baby in the climate controlled room, and you'll be able to tell who's really breaking a sweat. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're the new sweatiest member. Gun to your head. Who's the Titans starting right guard and right tackle? JT.
NPF Dylan Radins.
Those are my answers, but I'm not super. I mean, like I'm worried a little bit with that gun to my head because I don't know if those are right. Should we be sniffing around the Hassan Haskins running back 3 tree a little bit more? No, I don't think. I mean, here's the only case is that they want a guy that really does something super different than what their top 2 guys does. In which case, if you're looking for the most different guy on your running back roster, not named Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears, then it is probably Hassan Haskins. But I don't think that. No, I don't think we should be sniffing up that tree anymore because they've not talked about it. We've not heard it from them. So, yeah, no. Best movie you've seen this year? Ooh.
For me, it's Dune 2.
Oh yeah, it's Dune 2. Yeah.
But I also have seen Bullet Train this year, and I thought that was a very fun movie.
It's very fun. I watched it last year, but it's very fun. Yeah, I'll go with Dune 2. That's it's kind of a cop. Oppenheimer I saw last year. Yeah. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Best taco spot in Nashville? Oh, I'm so bad with restaurants.
Mine is Baja Burrito on Thompson.
I knew that'd be your answer. I mean, mine's like, I don't know.
Chewy's? You're such a Chewy's person, and that's what you would definitely say.
I'm not gonna say that's the best taco in town. Chewy's is good. Don't get me wrong. Satco, San Antonio Taco Company. You been there before? Satco's
overrated.
It's good. Okay, you're overrated.
Overrated.
Okay, how about okay, I'll leave it at that. I'm blanking. Okay. Never mind. Satco's my answer, but
overrated.
Okay, whatever. And then favorite non-Titans player in the NFL. I have mine answer. It's gonna just be an infuriating way to end the episode.
Okay, what's your answer?
No, you go first.
My favorite well, I mean,
I can go first if you need a minute.
I don't know. I gotta think.
My favorite?
Yeah.
Derek.
Oh. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, as a Ravens fan, as
the Ravens fan that I am, and at the Derek fan, I am. My favorite's Derek Henry.
I mean, non-Titans like
Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty.
I mean, yeah, I like Joe, but like I'm a big Josh Allen fan. Like, I like.
Don't
Josh.
let certain people hear you say that. That's far too positive coming from you. You are a big Josh Allen fan.
I do like
the
Josh
fantasy
Allen.
person in you. That's why you like Josh Allen.
I've never had Josh Allen on my fantasy team ever.
Really?
So,
okay, well, maybe you're just not as big a hater as I thought you were. Well,
oh no, I am. I pick and choose my battles.
I don't know. So. You say you like him a lot, so it doesn't sound like a hater to me. Anyways, that's our show today. Woo boy, almost 2 hours, but that was a lot of fun. I had fun. Make this an annual thing because that was a lot of fun, and you guys were awesome. A ton of fantastic questions. Genuinely, thank you. We were worried when we were like mailbag, but we're like, will we have 3 questions and then not know what to do? You guys delivered on all.
Here we are, 2 hours later.
40 some odd questions. Yeah, a lot of questions. So thank you guys for those. We'll be back on next Tuesday. We've got some topics in mind. I don't know which one it will be on Tuesday, but we'll be doing one of them, and you'll hear it on our social medias. Make sure you're following us at Hot Read Pod on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you're subscribed on Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page. A lot of daily content coming, not just the live shows on Broadway Sports Media, the YouTube page. You will get daily snippets, cut-ups, shorts, segments, a lot of awesome stuff. So if you don't catch the whole show and you want to listen to like just 10 minutes on this topic, it's there for you. It's in the video feed. We got a bunch of that stuff coming out again every single day. So check it out, subscribe, hit like on the videos that you like, all that good stuff. Until Tuesday, have a great weekend. For producer JT, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. It's been the Hot Read Podcast. We'll talk to you then.